Pesachim Daf Tzadik Ches. Today's email comes from Ronnie Sterling. He says, I'm still with you and sincerely appreciate all the effort that you and the MDY put into the Daf Yomi and other aspects of the MDY experience, including our Hamerkaz and the visuals. I take advantage of your words of encouragement and your efforts to make the Daf available to even those of the Olam who have not had the opportunity to learn the Gemara on a regular basis. I've been with the Daf for a year and look forward to attending a Zoom Bisman someday. Thanks again, Ronnie Sterling. Thanks, Ronnie. Says the Mishnah, if a person designates a carbon Pesach which is more than a year old, or it's a female and a keva, the halacha is yira achi yistayev. You let it graze until it befalls a mom. You take the money and you buy a shlamim. And the Gemara says you learn three halachas from it. First of all, that you could push off a balchai, a living thing, forever. You could also do dichu meikara. That is, it's machlekes whether you could push something off only once it becomes kachim, once it becomes a carbon. Over here, in this case, you see even before it reached that level, you push it off forever. And finally, you learn dichu bedamim. That even though it only has monetary kedusha, yet you could push it off. What happens if a father, Rahman al dies? If his son is a part of his group in the carbon, the son can bring it as a carbon Pesach. According to Abaya, it's only if the father died after Chatzais, where the Aninos doesn't affect the bringing of the carbon. According to Rava, even before Chatzais, if the father died, if the son is part of the group, since this Einan anyway is not going to bring it today, he's going to bring it the second Pesach. However, if the son is not part of his group, then the son brings this carbon Pesach as a shlamim. Now, again, according to Abaya, it's only when the father died before Chatzais, so that you don't have a case where it became a carbon and then was pushed off. It was never a carbon Pesach where it got pushed off, therefore you can bring it as a shlamim. Rav Shabbat says, we're talking about a situation where it died after Chatzais, but the father was a geisus. He's on his deathbed, and therefore the carbon never became an automatic Pesach by itself because the father wasn't in a position to bring that carbon Pesach. Rav Ashi says we're talking about that the father died after Chatzais, and if the son is not part of the group, he brings it as shlamim, like Reb Shimon that says that a live animal cannot become nidcha, can't be pushed off. Ravina says we're talking about that the father designated the carbon Pesach after Chatzais, and he died after Chatzais, and he holds that Chatzais is what distinguishes and makes it a carbon Pesach. It's that moment in time, but since the whole designation was after Chatzais, that never happened. When the son does bring the shlamim, it must be on the 16th of Nisan and not on the 15th, because you don't bring a carbon neder and nedava on Yantif. Says the Mishnah, what happens if carbon Pesach gets mixed up with the Asham and the Ayla? You let them all graze until they befall a mum, and you redeem them with the most valuable one, with the difference in price coming out of the owner's pocket. It goes according to Reb Shimon, who says, Mevim kachim lebeis hapsul. Carbon Pesach you could only eat that night till Chatzos, till the morning. The others you could eat the following day. So shouldn't we be concerned that some of this meat might go to waste? Reb Shimon is not concerned. If it got mixed up with a b'char, and the group is Kohanim, so you let it graze, and you bring another nice looking carbon, and you make it tonight. A carbon Pesach you can redeem, a b'char you cannot redeem. But a b'char goes out with a mum. So in Manavshach we have a mum here because they grazed until they befell a mum, and now we redeemed it. Like the Mishnah that says that if you have a asham and a shlamim, a asham is kachim kachim, a shlamim is kachim kalam. If they got mixed up, so what do? When we shecht it, we do all the chumras, and we yaitza for everything. So you shecht it in the tzafain, and you eat it only for one day, like a asham, only a kayin, only in nazar, all like a asham. If it got mixed up with the b'char, according to Reb Shimon, the kayanim eat it min manavshach. Says the Mishnah, if you have a group that lost their carbon, and they tell one of them, go out and find the carbon, and if you find the carbon, shecht it for us. But they went meanwhile and they shechted their own carbon Pesach. So it depends which one was found first. If the shliach found his first, then everybody eats from the first one. If the shliach did not find his first, then they eat from the second one. He doesn't eat from it. Now, if it's unknown which one was found first, they don't eat from it. The shliach could eat from his, and they are yaitza carbon Pesach mimanavshach. Either the shliach's was first or theirs was first, and they don't have to bring another carbon Pesach. If he tells them, I'm going to go look for the carbon, meanwhile you shecht for me, but they didn't say anything to him. If he found his first, he gets to eat from him, and they get to eat from their own. Now, if it's unknown, they eat from theirs, and he doesn't eat at all, and he's Yaitzim and Manavshach. If he told them, if I find the carbon, I'll shafta for you, and they told him. So again, it depends which one was found first, and if it's unknown, both of them are burnt. Now, what if neither of them said to each other any deal? So the halacha is each one goes ahead and eats from their carbon. And the Gemara says on this, Shashtika yafa lechachamim. In this case where no one spoke, they were silent, they get to eat both of the karbanos. But the case before, where they made a deal with each other, neither of them gets to eat the carbon if you don't know which one was shechted first. If two chaburais, two groups, their carbon pesach got mixed up, so what you do is you take one person from group A and move him over to group B. One person from group B, move him over to group A, and now they make a deal with that person, say, if we're part of this carbon, you could join us, and if you're the owner of this carbon, we'll join you. Same thing applies to 5 groups. And what you do is you take one person from each group. You start off with, let's say, 5 blues. Now the group consists of one of each color. In other words, one person from each group moves to each carbon, and each person, all 4 make a deal with one, and then they move and they do the other 4 with the next person, and so on and so forth. If 2 carbonas got mixed up, it's only 2 people, so you bring another person from the marketplace, so to speak, just a new person, and then you leave that person with your original carbon, and you move to carbon B. The person from carbon B brings another person in, he leaves that person in carbon B, and he moves to carbon A, and they make a deal with each other. Have a wonderful day.